Everyone, welcome everyone to the meeting, the regular meeting of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. This is a regular session. We're also sitting all special taxing districts, and this is September 17, 2018 at 9 a.m. This is my call to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Supervisor Porches, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. Can you please join me in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right, the first item in the agenda is call to the public. Call to the public is held for the public's benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona revised statutes, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and decision at a future date. And remember, normally this is an item where if you're in the agenda later sometime, you wait until then. But I do have a speaker card from Gene Dalby. Gene?
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. Morning.
Another beautiful day in Yuma.
Right.
Yes,
if you're on
it
a
is.
bicycle, it's even better.
Absolutely. Early in the morning or late at night. My name is Gene Dalby. I live at 1183 West 37th Street, 85365. My comments this morning are related to an item that's was, I understand, on the agenda, but is now postponed, and that's referenced parks. I think that in the kindest of terms that I can come up with, that parks is not a favored name in the county environment, but nevertheless, I was concerned about it from a bicycling perspective, in that many communities consider linear parks, which are commonly called bike paths around here, as a park element, and I wanted to be sure that a bicycling representative, a person, a community, a connection somehow would be included in that advisory committee, so that that aspect of bicycling would not be left out. So essentially that's my presentation. If you can help me out with that to be sure that the bicycling is represented in that advisory committee. Thanks be to God. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. I think are all the appointments filled?
I think all of them are filled. You have two?
What? So hold on a minute.
Call to the public.
Oh, it's called to the public. Well, we're not making a decision. I'm just asking a question.
You have two?
We may not discuss it, but I can ask the question.
I have something.
Oh, you have something for the call to the public? Oh,
Wait, let me,
yeah, I wasn't moving away from call to the public. I was asking a question regarding the last presentation.
Mr. Chairman,
Hold on a minute, hold on a second. Just stay there. This will be good for you because then you'll know what it feels like. Stay there for a minute. Does anybody know whether all the appointments have been made to the Parks and Recreation
I believe
Commission?
they have.
They'll have it made? Okay, well, we'll figure out a way to get Gene's comments into there, okay? All right, now, this is open to the public, call to the public, and we have a gentleman here who we've known for years that is now in the hot seat.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Kevin Tennell, not Communications Director for Yuma County, but resident at 3903 South Plowman Drive, Yuma, Arizona. Just wanted to relay to you all that I'm very grateful, particularly to a person in this room. About a week ago, my overachieving 17-year-old daughter, who's taking 4 AP courses in school, came to me very stressed out because she had an AP calculus test, which she wanted help with. I don't know if you all still remember AP calculus, but it never even crossed my radar, so I was stuck. I couldn't help my daughter. I got online and looked for ways. This is on a Sunday, mind you, and the test is on Tuesday she's taking, and she's scared she's going to fail it. And I researched online, found that I could get tutors across country for like $100 an hour, and I don't even know who these people are. It took a little while, but I put a text to Susan Evans, who's with us, the library director, and she said, try our tutoring. We have tutoring. I'm like, what are you talking about? So she sent me a link. Sure enough, she's invested money to give the community free tutors through tutor.com. Within about 5 minutes, I signed up for it, and no lie, You can drill down and tell them exactly what you want to be tutored. We said advanced placement, calculus AB, whatever the heck that is. And within a minute or two, we had a response from an advanced calculus AB teacher up in Washington State that spent about 2 hours with my daughter. And she got an A on the test last Tuesday. And she was much less stressed out. I just realized that I don't know if people are using this. And I wanted to thank Susan and them and you all ultimately for making this available, because it was invaluable. And she's using it now more because she's got a heavy schedule. So I kind of wanted to say thanks to Susan and say something in public in case people didn't know. Completely free. They didn't charge us a penny, and she gets to use it. So it's a great resource.
Thank you.
Can we clap? Come on. Thank you, Susan.
I've been told by legal that clapping is not permitted in the call to the public. So refrain from clapping until
Sorry.
instructed to do so. No.
You may revise that after my comments. I would like to take an opportunity to recognize Mr. Jim Flory. He's our budget director, and he is going to be retiring at the September 22nd is his last day. So this will be his last board meeting. So I wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to express your appreciation as well as my appreciation for his 12 years of service to the county. He's done a fabulous job. He's able to say no to people and they're still happy. So that's always a good thing with having that characteristic in a budget director. He's very supportive with our has put us in good stead. And he also has developed a good team. And we can't fill his shoes, but we will have a replacement in Mr. Tony Struck. He's going to be the new budget director. So we have a little bit of overlap for the two of them together, which is going to be very helpful for that institutional knowledge transfer. So, Jim, if you don't mind standing up so we can recognize you.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan.
Oh, it's just been a privilege to work here and serve the Yuma County, and all of you, and Susan has been great with me as well. So it's been a great run, and in all honesty, this has been the highlight of my career working for Yuma County. So it's just been a privilege, and I appreciate everything everyone has done for me.
All right. Well, since I'm the chairman, I can speak first before everybody else here. Let me tell you something, Jim. I've always said that it's easy to manage something when things are good, when things are well. It's much different when things are tough and tight. And the years that you spent as most of the years that you spent as the budget director were tough years, really. They were the recession years. So we really needed somebody that had your frame of mind, that could say no, but didn't make people feel it was because you were angry or anything. But then you were able to explain that. And to me, I've been here all those years, and I tell you what, you have certainly made my life easier and better. And you certainly did your job in a way that the county continued to operate. I mean, we were one of the very few counties in the state of Arizona that throughout the whole recession, you didn't hear wholesale layoffs, or you didn't hear, budget cuts that, really cut that deep. We were able to sustain operations in a way that I think was responsible. And I think that most of us here would probably, understand that that is not necessarily something that we tend to do well. It's something that budget directors tend to do well. So I just want to let you know that your job has been appreciated, and that the fact that we didn't complain about it much was, credit to you and the way you handle those things.
Thank you.
We're going to miss you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just to reiterate what Chairman Reyes said. I can't thank you enough. You had it through some hard years. I know I'm fairly new up here, but I remember when I was with the sheriff's office, some of the talks that I know the sheriff was having with you and trying to get through stuff. So thank you for everything you've done for the county. Because like I said, like Tony said, you did something a lot of the counties in this state didn't do, which is keep the county going and keep the people working.
Well, if Supervisor Porges hasn't found something to complain about, before he came in, that really happens to be the mark of excellence. So we'll let him say something.
Tony. Oh.
I won't say it.
No, I just want to say thank you and good luck on your new venture. So.
Thank you very much.
Ed, my turn.
Yes, sure.
We've had several meetings together where you sat down and explained to me some budget things that some other person probably would have laughed at my knowledge or lack thereof of exactly what this line item meant and what this line item meant. And you explained them to me in these last couple of years so that I understood exactly what was going on. And I appreciate you so very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for meeting with me and helping me to understand county budgets so much better. I appreciate all the work you've done for the county, and have fun in your retirement.
Thank you.
I understand,
Yes.
I understand you're gonna work as a tutor.
Absolutely, yeah.
With the budget.
Budget tutor, yeah.
Susan is gonna talk to you soon.
He could be a tutor. He just
Yeah.
tutored me right through.
That was a good point, good point.
Supervisor
Thank you,
McLeod.
Mr. Chairman. Jim, I can't really add much to what's been said. It's been an outstanding run, a tremendous pleasure. And I remember the time you stepped up and were interim county administrator, a role which I think you went into with a little bit of begrudging, but you
I was
did a
kind of
great
hoping y'all
job.
were gonna forget that part.
Very steady, very even-handed. I know, and that was during some tough times too, tough decisions. And you always approached it with steadfast and always trying to do the best that you could with our resources and for the people that work for the county. And I will definitely miss you. I have every confidence that we have somebody step into your place. But as Susan said, we won't have another Jim, but you'll be sorely missed. And thank you so much.
Thank you all. It's been a privilege to work under such a cooperative board, and I know the board has changed a little bit over the years, but it's always been a board that works together for the best interest of the county, and that's been a privilege as well. And also our county administrator is the same way, Robert Pickels and Susan Thorpe. So
All
thank
right.
you all very much.
Well, you're a gem, Jim.
Yeah,
We're
thank
gonna miss
you.
you.
You've been waiting to say that, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been waiting to say that till the end there.
Now we get to clap.
Yeah, now you can. Well, I was gonna say the check's in the deposited account because it isn't in the mail anymore, but thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Anybody else in call to the public? No? Then we'll move on to presentations, proclamations, and appointment. During this segment of the agenda, board members may discuss the presentations and proclamations and may announce appointments to the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission and to the Yuma County Board of Adjustments. No legal action will be taken. The first item in the agenda is the presentation of the county line by Yuma 77, the Yuma County Government Channel.
The Sheriff's Office is helping older adults who live alone simply by asking, "Are you okay?" Foothills residents might notice a new traffic signal. And there's no time like the present for planning, especially when it comes to the flu. These stories and more, this is your County Line. Can you imagine being alone and isolated from society? That's what many elderly face on a daily basis. But the Yuma County Sheriff's Office is helping by asking the simple question, "Are you okay?" The Yuma County Sheriff's Office operates the Are You Okay computer system. It makes daily telephone checks on elderly or ill people who live in the county and have no one to check in on them. The system calls subscribers daily at a regular time. If the subscriber answers the call, the computer verifies that they are okay. If there's no answer, the computer logs that there is something wrong and issues an alert to the Sheriff's Office Dispatch Center, where they will alert the nearest law enforcement unit to check up on them.
This program has been very effective. It has saved many lives where we have responded to the home and have found the elderly either hurt, fallen and can't get up, and medical attention has been rendered and taken to Yuma Regional Medical Center where it's been saved.
For more information on Are You OK services, you can access the Sheriff's Office webpage at yumacountyaz.gov or call the volunteer office at 819-2212. If you've lived in Yuma County for any period of time, you've seen how populated we've become. And with our snowbird population in the winters, the streets get particularly busy. That's why the Yuma County Public Works Department recently activated a new traffic signal in the foothills. Drivers might have already noticed the signal becoming operational at Foothills Boulevard and 48th Street. Motorists are advised to be aware of this addition and adjust accordingly to the new four-way intersection. As always, please visit the Public Works Department website for more information on future road projects. Flu season is just around the corner, and your county health district is going into full swing with flu shots. There's a lot of talk in the air about the right time to get your shot. Public health officials say there's no time like the present.
Best to get it as soon as you can, and you're going to protect yourself, you're going to protect elderly who may have compromised immune systems, infants younger than 6 months who can't get the shot, and anybody else around you.
You can help others by protecting yourself from the flu and its effects. Just like Mom said, always cover your cough. Wash your hands thoroughly, and if you feel sick, please stay home. This way you keep the virus from spreading. If you'd like more information about flu shots, you can contact the health department at 317-4559. Hi, my name is Tricia and this is your Health Watch. September is Falls Prevention Month, and although falls can lead to a loss of independence, they are preventable. Most falls are caused by a combination of risk factors. The more risk factors a person has, the greater the chance of falling. Here are 4 things you can do to prevent falls. 1. Speak up. Ask your doctor or pharmacist to review your medications, even over-the-counter medications, to see if a particular combination can make you dizzy. 2. Keep moving. Begin an exercise program to improve your leg strength and balance. 3. Get an annual eye exam and have your feet checked. Once a year, have your eye doctor test your vision and, if needed, update your glasses. Ask your healthcare provider to check your feet and discuss proper footwear. 4. Make your home safer. Remove clutter and tripping hazards from the places you walk. Use double-sided tape to secure small throw rugs to prevent you from slipping. Improve the lighting in your home. Bright lights are needed to see well. Remember, anyone can be affected by a fall, regardless of age, but by making some changes, you can lower your chances of losing your independence. To learn more about falls prevention, please visit www.azstopfalls.org or email annette.perez@yumacountyaz.gov. This is all for now. Until next time, stay healthy, Yuma. On this spotlight, we give you an inside look at a county department that is helping to provide families with a decent living and the ability to become self-sufficient.
The Yuma County Housing Department's mission is to assist low-income families with safe, decent, and affordable housing opportunities as they strive to achieve self-sufficiency. The county, acting by and through the housing departments, owns and operates 159 low-income housing units. These are located in Somerton, Yuma, and in San Luis. These housing units consist of like 1, 2, 3, 4-bedroom apartments and eligible families who meet the low-income criteria. The Section 8 housing program, pursuant to HUD regulations, we have been issued 401 vouchers to be issued to these eligible families and to provide them rental assistance, and payments are made to private landlords that owns these existing rental units. This program, we get the families from the 2 program itself. They come in, they sign a contract to complete their goals, which can either be self-employed, have obtained higher educational degree, and become homeowners. It's our mission to assist these low-income families, for them to obtain safe, decent, affordable housing opportunities, and for them to achieve self-sufficiency and to improve the quality of their lives.
You can learn more about the Yuma County Housing Department by navigating to yumacountyaz.gov. You'll find them under the Government tab. It's an honor only the nation's top reporting agencies receive when it comes to finances, and this is the 17th straight year that Yuma County Finance Department has received the award. The Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting was awarded by the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada to Yuma County. So what does this mean to those of us who don't understand the world of financial reporting? Well, in the numbers world, this is a home run in the World Series of how Yuma County reports their finances to our customers. This is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by our entire finance department. Congratulations! We'd like to thank you for joining us for this County Line. If you'd like to watch past episodes, log on to yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. And don't forget, you can join us live on Facebook. We'll see you next time.
All right. We'll see her next time. All right. Moving on, yeah, she's always entertaining. We will then move on to proclamation. And the first proclamation, the only proclamation in this particular agenda is a proclamation proclaiming September 17, 2018 as National Day of Remembrance for Homicide Victims. We have a few invited guests here. So we'll let we'll ask Supervisor McLeod to please read the proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A proclamation proclaiming the day of September 25, 2018 as National Day of Remembrance for Homicide Victims in Yuma County. Whereas the death of a murdered family member is a difficult experience that robs immediate and extended families of their loved ones and creates overwhelming challenges to fill the void that their absence creates. And whereas the friends and families of murder victims cope with grief through a variety of support services, including counseling, crisis intervention, professional referrals, and assistance in dealing with the criminal justice system. And whereas the County of Yuma joins with the Yuma County Victims' Rights Committee, as well as victim service programs, criminal justice officials, and concerned citizens throughout the county to remember the anguish caused by homicide, to honor the courage of survivors, and to strive to help the survivors rebuild their lives. Now therefore, Marco A. Tony Reyes, Chairman of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors, hereby proclaims the day of September 25, 2018 to be National Day of Remembrance for Homicide Victims in Yuma County, and encourages all citizens of Yuma County to join him in remembering the victims who have been murdered and their families, and to support programs that help those who have been devastated through these violent tragedies.
Thank you, Supervisor McLeod. John Smith, our county attorney, is, suffice it to say, heavily involved in this process every year. So would you please introduce some of the guests that are here?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and thank you for the proclamation. And just to confirm, it is the 25th. That's our National Day of Remembrance that was established in 2007 by our United States Congress. This will be, I believe, our 11th anniversary for national recognition, and we like to adopt that at a local level. I think the confusion may have been because tonight, the 17th, is our vigil.
Yeah, it was listed as the 17th. Yeah.
Our chairperson is passing out handouts for the event that's this evening. I know it's 11th hour. This is Alicia Franco. Alicia has been chairperson of the Victim Rights Committee for
a couple years now.
3 or 4 years. Is that fair to say?
I think it's because I drive them and I give them desserts and stuff sometimes after our meetings, and that may be why, but they've kept me on.
She hasn't been elected because she didn't show up to the meeting on the election day. She's actually has agreed to do this, and she's done a wonderful job. And without her leadership, I'm not so sure we would be able to have the events to the quality that we do. So thank you.
Thank you, John. On behalf of our committee, and I think a lot of our audience here this morning is our committee, I would like to invite you all to this evening's event. If you have not had the opportunity to attend, it's a very moving event. We have a guest speaker this evening who is Troy Love, who is a local counselor and who will speak on some of the issues involved with having to go through something like this and how you carry on after a tragic event. We have a memory wall that we have photos of victims of homicide that are placed up there. We invite the public to set up their own memory wall if they want, a little tribute to their family member that may have passed as a result of this. And we have little tea lights that at the end of the evening after our presentations, we go and we place in front of the memory wall and the little tributes, and it's a very moving experience. We have many family members who attend, and we'd like to invite all of you to come as well. I think it's something that you will remember for the rest of your lives.
Well, thank you. And we do have a large crowd that's coming over to pick up the resolution.
I believe that's about half the room. I also like to mention that Supervisor Simmons has agreed to deliver the proclamation.
I don't know if all of you are here, but I'm going to read your names anyway, because we know that you don't get enough recognition. So, whenever there's an opportunity to recognize you, we take it. So, Andrea Mendez, Gabriela Sanchez, Lorena Garcia, Estrella Fish, Alicia Franco, Kimberly Gardner, Sara Guerra, Leticia Figueroa, Linda King, Ruby Gaxiola, Esther Juarez Martinez, Maria Toxnek, and Eva Salazar. Okay, thank you very much. And if you please would you please all step up to the next to the podium here so that we can hand you the proclamation.
You're not slipping out.
This space in the middle, don't be afraid.
Oh, that pretty purple hat.
Oh, the purple. Oh, the purple lady will take it. Yeah. Come back up a little bit because I think that a widescreen camera. The podium's in the way, huh? And Supervisor McLeod takes a lot of space. Oh. No, don't squeeze anymore. He's too close to my wallet. Got it? All right. Well, thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you for what you do. I know you work hard.
Please, don't buy so many donuts.
I know, that's it.
Donuts, yeah. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Well, that cleared the room.
I know.
Hope it wasn't something you said. The next item in the agenda is a presentation by Paul D. Ward, Yuma Metropolitan Planning Organization, YMPO, regarding the historical Arizona Department of Transportation funding in the Yuma region. I read the presentation, It's on point.
Yeah, it is.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors, I hope the big exodus wasn't because of my presentation.
Your speech coming, everybody dressed the PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, scary. Got a PowerPoint presentation very briefly. This is basically two presentations combined together. We do have some handouts that I believe you have in front of you, and I will help to guide you through them. I'm going to throw a lot of statistics at you, but in this particular case, there won't be a test at the end, so I'm glad to say, but I will be happy to come and meet with you individually if you do have any more detailed questions. Very briefly, I'm going through the amount of federal and state funding, transportation funding that we get here in Yuma County. In this particular case, the main funding that goes towards both federal and state comes from gasoline and diesel fuel taxes. And essentially the next, do I have this? Which one? Top left? The right, there we go. I haven't done the training course on this one yet, I'm afraid. At the moment, what you'll find is that there are two gasoline taxes, essentially, one for gasoline, one for diesel. 18.4 cents goes to the feds, round about 19 cents goes to the state. Those numbers have not changed. Those are per gallon, and those numbers haven't changed essentially for 25 years. So that effectively, many years ago, I gotta make sure I haven't got this one on here. Many years ago, 1991 approximately was when they were last increased. When gasoline was about $1.15, you were paying around about 37 cents of that $1.15 in gasoline taxes. Now that gasoline is about $2.50, you're still only paying 37 cents in gasoline taxes. When you bear in mind that cars are actually traveling almost twice as much for the same gallon of gasoline, perhaps explains why some members of our staff here, your county engineering staff, are having major problems doing the maintenance that's necessary. There are other taxes for transportation, and that's called the Highway User Revenue Funds. The first two on the list up there, gasoline, use fuel. You then have registrations, operator's license. Vehicle license tax is a pretty big piece. But gas and use fuel, diesel, combined take half of it. Now these particular funds, some of these funding sources have changed. This particular piece is taken from a more exciting one, which you'll see in the next slide. This is about how much money ADOT received last year. They received about $1.5 billion in HURF funds, Highway User Revenue Funds. They then received about half the amount in federal taxes. In total, they had almost $2.25 billion to spend within the state. And no, there will not be a test on this one either, but this is the larger flow diagram, if you want, for the Highway User Revenue Funds, how it's distributed. As you can see right at the top there, $1.4 billion in Highway User Revenue Funds, and it's directed different ways. On the left-hand side, you can see the amount that goes direct, and this is done by legislation, to counties. On the right-hand side, you can see the amount of money that goes down to cities and towns. And then, most importantly, you can see the amount that goes into the State Highway Fund. About half of the money that doesn't get siphoned off earlier on goes into the State Highway Fund. I will point out a couple of things. There are two DPS transfers, Department of Public Safety. That's part of the problem with siphoning money off of these transportation funds. Okay, so how does ADOT distribute this money? First of all, they distribute the Highway User Revenue Funds by a specific formula, and it's a very complex formula, and it changes year after year. That goes down, as we've seen, to counties and to individual cities and towns. Then, the remaining federal and state highway funds are actually distributed out to Maricopa County, or the Maricopa Association of Governments, and the Pima Association of Governments. Most importantly, this is primarily the federal, but also includes the state highway funds, are distributed to those two agencies based on a piece of, it's not a legislation, it's an agreement called the Casa Grande Resolves. This basically came around in the early 90s, and I'm sorry to say that I was partly to blame for that, because I did the same sort of analysis that I'm doing for you today way back then. Regardless of that, so in other words, I'm partly to blame for the problems we've got, but Hopefully I'm here to help solve it. The whole point is the federal funds are actually divided up between MAG and PAG, and then the share of the federal funds are sent to the region, the rest of the regions, by formula. The remaining federal and state funds are divided up based on ADOT's planning to programming process. Effectively, the problem we have here is that number 4, the planning to programming process, doesn't define where it goes. It's based on state routes to a great degree. Just heading back and looking at the highway user revenue funds, I mentioned that counties get a portion and the cities and towns. This is the actual distribution of highway user revenue funds based on the individual states. I beg your pardon, the individual agencies. As you can see, Yuma County does get a large portion. Within the highway user revenue funds, counties do tend to get a large portion, primarily because they have geographically so many roads out there. Relatively speaking, compared with cities and towns, they have a lot of rural areas. Well, by definition, that's effectively what they are. So, but the next piece of the presentation, we're going to go into the actual individual sheets. First of all, I'm going to show you one by population, or so to say population divided by county, then the amount of gallons of fuel by county, and then going to look closer at the state highway program, and there's a shorter version of that, and you'll see why. Finally, there's the last 2 items are the state highway funds, how many lane miles there are in each county, and then more importantly, how funding is being distributed amongst regional plans. If I would like to move on to, and I don't have all of these on the overhead because they're individual. If you'll please take a look at the first sheet that you have here. What this simply says is the state of Arizona population. This is the most recent estimate. The state of Arizona has a population, I don't think it's a task force, but it's an agency that actually does estimates of population. These are all based on the census information that was originally produced here in 2010. Obviously, it's going to be updated. Now, if you look at the sheet, you have a list of the counties. You have the 2017 estimate. You've got the percentage of the estimate shown. And then, more importantly, the right-hand column shows the percentage of Greater Arizona. Greater Arizona essentially is the whole population of the state of Arizona, less Maricopa Association of Governments and Pima Association of Governments. They have a specifically separate allocation of transportation funds, and as a result, all I'm interested in at the current time is comparing how much money has been coming to Yuma County compared with the other rural counties. As you can see, on a population basis, and I've highlighted Mojave County, Yavapai County, and Yuma County, we all have very, very similar percentages. We all have approximately 12 to 13% of the population of Greater Arizona. If you please move to the next sheet. So compared with population, what I'm showing you now are millions of gallons of gasoline that has been paid into the ADOT system over the past 20 years. So 20 years, and I haven't highlighted these, but if you look at Mojave County, Yavapai County, and Yuma County, the amount of gallons of diesel fuel and gasoline that have been paid into the system are almost identical and are very, very similar to population. In other words, we pay about the right amount based on our population. So the amount of money that we're putting into the system is consistent with our population. If you'll please now move to the last sheet, which is the 11 by 17 sheet, the folded out one.
Oh, yeah.
This big one? Please don't read it. It'll drive you crazy. I just wanted to show you how thorough that my staff has been. We've gone back 20 years in the ADOT highway program and taken a look at how much money has been programmed by ADOT, how much ADOT in theory is going to be spending within each county. Okay, you can now ignore that one and go on to page 3 of the smaller sheets, because that gives you a synopsis. It shows you the county. It shows you the most recent program. That's this one. It shows you the most recent program, which is 2019 to 23. And then it shows you, it says 2005 to 2023. That's actually 2000 to 2023. Most importantly, looking at the numbers in 2000 for the whole amount combined, as you can see, comparing Mojave County, Yavapai County, we're getting less than half of what Mojave County is getting, and we're getting way less than half of what Yavapai County is getting. Bearing in mind they have almost identical populations and we contribute almost an identical amount of money into the system. If you actually look at the previous, the 19 to 23, and looking all the way down the bottom, if you look at the 2.63%, that shows how much money we're getting from the state highway system based on Greater Arizona, population of Greater Arizona. Bearing in mind, we're contributing about 13% and we're getting 2.63% back. I'm thinking if we're only getting $1.05 back, there's something going wrong here.
Well, these numbers are hundreds, right?
I beg your pardon. These numbers on here are thousands.
Thousands.
Thousands, yes. So, and I do apologize. I know these so well that it didn't click, and I should have actually nominated it as such. So in other words, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, 21 million is actually 21 billion, because that's over a 20-year process.
Right.
Okay, so big question. Why are we only getting, if you look at the 3.34%, way down the bottom right-hand corner, based on the fact that we're actually putting in 13%, we're only getting 1 in 4 spread over the past 20 years. Something definitely going wrong there. The next page actually shows you partly the reason why. And this is the number of lane miles on the state highway system. Number of lane miles on the state highway system. So if you're the director of transportation for the state, where are you going to put your funds? And the answer is, in most cases, you're going to put them where the lane miles are. Part of the problem is that Mojave County and Yavapai County, I am picking on them to some degree because they have similar amounts. As it turns out, we have less than half of the number of lane miles in Yuma County than Mojave County does and Yavapai County. As a result, that makes sense why perhaps the state of Arizona is actually shunting more money to those particular agencies for maintaining their roads. However, you can look at that 2 different ways. Number one, why do they have twice as many miles as we do? We have the same population, we put in the same amount of money. Why do they have twice as many miles? Well, maybe historically they've done a better job in getting more miles on the state highway system. But number two, my attitude is, why are we subsidizing those 2 counties? We're paying the money, and we're continuing to pay the money, even up to date, and apparently we're not getting our fair share back. Okay. Not quite finished on that one, but could just refer to where we go next. In this case, I've given this presentation to the YMPO Executive Board. I have been asked to give this to 2 other city councils, and I'm going to take this the next step. The big question is what do we do about it? And I'm afraid to say I don't know the answer to that question right now, except that, number 1, first identify the problem, then 2, find a political means to try to solve it. Realistically, though, I think the aim is clear. Number 1, we need a consistent, fair share of state and federal funds for Yuma County. If we can get a consistent, fair share, however fair is defined, then I think we will have achieved a goal. More importantly, it occurs to me, if we were only to get the same percentage of funding that Yavapai County is getting and Mojave County is getting, we'd double the amount of money we're getting. Our top priority at the moment is US 95. That's US 95 from Araby Road to Aberdeen Road. We want to have that widened. We need to have that widened from the 2 lanes in each direction that it currently is out to 4 lanes. The second priority that has been set by the YMPO Executive Board is to have the remainder of US 95, I apologize I didn't put 95 up there, is to have the second portion of US 95 from Aberdeen Road up to Quartzsite. We need to have that as an all-weather roadway. All-weather roadway, which basically means at the moment, if we get floods, it becomes impassable. We need to have bridges, we need to have box culverts on the portion of the roadway. We don't necessarily need it to be widened out to 4 lanes. The traffic volume don't demand that at the moment, but we do need to have additional passing lanes. There will be other priorities. However, the last portion is to go back, I'm sorry to say this, to the final page, to the final sheet. And I also did an analysis of the regional transportation plans that each region has. In this particular case, looking down the bottom, Greater Arizona, there is a statewide regional plan. And the statewide regional plan, if you take MAG and PAG out of it, you have Greater Arizona. At the moment, the amount of money, what I did was I took a look at the populations of the respective areas. I took a look at the amount of money that's being programmed in the regional transportation plan for each area. Those plans vary. They can be from 20 years out to 30 years. Then I divided the amount of money by the number of years and by the number of population, of the number of people in each region. And basically came up with how much money is being programmed in each region per year, per person. As you can see, within the Yuma region, we all pay about $71 million, and I beg your pardon. I should point out that these numbers are probably the least accurate of all the numbers I've shown you to date, because these are all planned numbers. These are presumed numbers from the long-range transportation plans, looking out 20, 30 years. So, but when you bear that in mind, with Greater Arizona has about 1.3 times the amount. And then going up the list, you'll find that Pima MPO, the PAG, Pima Association of Governments, they're paying almost 8 times per person. Part of the reason for that is they have an extremely robust transit program down there, and they pay, arguably they pay through the nose for it, but they've got an extremely strong program. Realistically speaking, this is a reflection of the fact that here in Yuma County, we haven't increased our gasoline taxes. We know that based on the state. We know that based on federal. More importantly, and that's not just Yuma County at the moment, 85% of the population of the state of Arizona has a 1/2-cent sales tax for transportation. They've had to go that way. As you know, the city of Yuma is actually implementing or possibly implementing a half-cent sales tax. It occurs to me, and I've been discussing this within the YMPO board, it might be time for Yuma County and perhaps the other members, member agencies, to perhaps implement something similar, but that will be completely and utterly up to the individual agencies concerned. And I wouldn't presume to, I can suggest it perhaps, but I wouldn't presume to suggest that you need to. Having said that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. I'm sorry it's not better news at the moment, but I would be very interested in hearing any comments with regard to how perhaps we can encourage ADOT to do a better job in investing money in our region.
Any comments?
Great presentation. A lot of work went into it.
Excuse me, Paul?
Lisa, go ahead, Supervisor.
Mr. Chairman, Paul, having Gary Knight on that, the State Transportation Board, is that going to help influence the board in any way? Do you think that's it's a positive, I'm sure, but is it going to help them understand some of the things that we've been lacking?
Supervisor Pancrazzi, sorry, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Pancrazzi, yes, I have absolutely no doubt that it will help. I would not want to put too much of an onus on Vice Mayor Knight, though, in that position, because he's only one of, I believe, 9.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, yes, it definitely will help to spread the word. As you're probably aware, the Rural Transportation Summit is taking place in Lake Havasu City on the Friday after the two-day summit. I believe that's October 24. There will be a State Transportation Board meeting in Lake Havasu City. That's on the Friday morning. And I am hoping that several elected members, I believe you're going to be one, will be able to at least address the State Transportation Board during the public, the call to the public at the beginning, and to effectively pass on the message that, hey, we're not getting our fair share. I should mention, I do beg your pardon, I have shared these numbers with ADOT. All of the numbers I've taken either come from the State Population Agency or from ADOT figures. I've shared this number with the Transportation Planning Chief of ADOT and have asked it for his feedback as to whether he feels I've made an error somewhere down the line. I don't think so, but I haven't. Although I presented this to him 3 weeks ago, I haven't heard any negatives from him at all. So there are a few other reasons as to why this has happened, but there's no smoking gun there. And frankly, when it boils down to it, the state of Arizona, I'm afraid, is forgetting about Yuma County.
Again.
Obviously, part of my job is to try to change that.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, have you given these numbers to Colonel Poffenberger out at YPG? Because he's very adamant about the 4-lane.
Yes, I have not given these numbers to Poffenberger, to Colonel Poffenberger. We do have a relationship with him. In fact, 2 of his staff members are coming up to the State Transportation Board meeting. I have offered to present this to him, not been able to get in contact directly with him or to go up there and give this presentation to him personally. But yes, we do have that relationship established with him and with Colonel Suggs here at the MCAS.
I know Colonel Poffenberger, I was talking to him last week, and he's talking to a lot of the state representatives and just about anybody that'll listen to him. So
I spoke to him too, and I think that he needs to see this presentation. If you have an opportunity to share it with him before the Rural Transportation Summit, or the 2 people that are going to be representing him at that Rural Transportation Summit, he's going to be in Alaska or...
He's going to be TDY,
yes.
Temporary duty somewhere else.
Yes, but if you present this to them, I think this would make a huge difference.
All right, Paul. Supervisor McClellan.
Paul, will you present this to the state board at call to the public or some point just a very condensed version. Do you plan to do that, or are you relying on the elected?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor McLeod, yes. I'm not going to present this directly to them. Obviously, we have 3 minutes, but I will definitely present to them, and I have already done so at prior boards, essentially drawing the difference that, hey, we're not getting what we should be getting. Last year, for example, in the program, we got $58 million programmed in Yuma County. That compares with $258 million to Yavapai County and $232 million, I think it was, in Mojave County, which is, guys, what's going on? However, again, there's a little bit more to it. The devil's in the details all the time. But nevertheless, there's still a systemic problem with regard to funding in Yuma County. The reason why I presented the last sheet, though, was to point out that even if ADOT was to fund us at the full amount, that would not solve our problems. It would not solve the region's problems.
And it wouldn't make it up for the 20 years of pointed losses.
Yeah, but I still want our fair share.
Yeah, so in your 3 minutes, in the 3 minutes that you have to put a presentation, you can probably put a summarized presentation and then just simply add the statement to it. But you know, they would have to look at the actual numbers at some particular point in time to appreciate the discrepancy. All right, Paul, any other questions? If not, thank you very much. It's a very informative presentation. Thank you. And
thank you, sir.
Keep at it.
And Mr. Chair, I have one more question, Paul.
Oh,
Is there
Paul.
any way you can get on the agenda of the state board to present this whole thing that you've got? Have you asked to be put on the agenda so that you could present it?
I have not tried.
I think we should try.
I will admit I have not tried. I can certainly try.
Yeah.
I think the only problem with that systemically would be then every single other MPO would want to give their bit. But again, from that point of view, I don't think every other MPO or Council of Governments region has got the systemic problems that we have right now. So
Yeah.
Right.
But
I
I
will
think
try.
whether they want to or not, I think we should see that if we can get this presentation on the agenda, you can present.
I will certainly give that a try.
Is it too late to do the one in October?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
Well, you'll have a whole bunch of us there to back you up. So I think you should try to get on that agenda. If I can help, let me know.
Will do. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Right, Paul, thank you very much. The next item in the agenda, I think, is the consent agenda. The consent calendar is where the following items are listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. There's items 1 through, I think it's 13. Are there any items that you want to pull?
Go ahead.
I want to pull item number 5, just for clarification, okay? So then you know. Is there anything else?
Number 11.
Number 11. Number 5 and number 11, any other items? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent items 1 through 13 with the exception of 5 and 11. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So
Is there a
moved.
second? Okay, there's been motion and second to go ahead and approve consent calendars 1 through 13 with the exception of items 5 and 11. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, item 5, I asked the item to be pulled. The item is the canceling of the November 6, 2018 Governing Board elections to Antelope Union High School District 50, Yuma Elementary School District 1, Hyder Elementary School District 16, Welton Elementary School District 24, Gadsden Elementary School District 21, Southwest Technical Education District of Yuma, Antelope Union High School, Yuma Union High School, seats that expired in 2018, Somerton School District 11, Martinez Lake Fire District, Yuma County Hospital District, Arizona Western College District number 5, and Yuma County Pest Abatement District, and appoint and deem elected all individuals shown in Exhibit A who filed nomination paperwork in each district fully vested with the powers and duties of the offices as if elected, and any remaining seats are deemed vacant and shall be otherwise filled as otherwise provided by law. Terms are effective beginning January the 1st, 2019, or as may be otherwise provided by law. Okay, the question that I had is, there was a couple of acknowledgements missing. I think one from Antelope, if I read that correctly. There was one from Antelope and the Martinez Lake Fire District. It's Antelope Union High School. We need to have written confirmations for this, of the request. Was that secured? Does anybody know in elections? Is elections here? No?
Written request, no. No, Mr. Chairman, I don't believe a written request is required.
All right. Well, it says so in the notes. That's why I ask. It says something, at the time of finalizing this item, we have been unable to obtain written confirmation of the request to cancel elections for the Antelope Union High School District and the Martinez Lake Fire District. Confirmation will be provided as handouts upon receipt. So because of that statement, I figured that we needed some sort of written request. But if we don't, if technically we don't need any written request, we can certainly proceed. I have no problem with that. I mean, you know, this is an opportunity to let everybody know that the elections that we're canceling is because either one, there's only one candidate for one post, or two candidates for two posts. In other words, there's only enough candidates to fill the seats that are available, or there's nobody running for those seats, so that we've got to go through this process and either declare that election an election of the candidate that's already listed, or simply declare that there's a vacancy in that position, so that it can follow through with the process of appointment. Is that the understanding of everybody here at the board?
Mhm.
Okay, well, okay, then if we don't need written confirmations, I'll entertain a motion to approve item number 5 as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve item number 5 as presented. All those, any discussion on the item? None. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We do have item number 11, Felicia. I guess you're practicing getting to the podium, you know,
Yes.
hobbling to the podium.
Slowly but surely.
Slowly. Human Resources, approve the utilization of the cooperative purchase contract with the City of Chandler, RFP number HR 5-948-3502, group number 28339, as allowed by the cooperative agreement for improved medical administration services, and authorize the Human Resource Director to sign all necessary documentation related to the cooperative purchasing contract. Supervisor Pancras, you asked for this item to be pulled. Is there a question, or is there something that you need?
I had a question. In reading, it said something about insurance for retirees. Do we provide insurance for retirees?
Chairman Reyes, Supervisor Pancrazzi, we don't provide benefit services for our retirees. They have the opportunity to elect onto the Arizona State Retirement System.
That's what I thought.
And so what that is just stating that while you are under our program under COBRA, the continuation of benefits, until you decide to elect some type of retirement program, you still can receive those additional benefits that the City of Chandler Cooperative Agreement has.
Good. And Mr. Chair, Felicia, so is the City of Chandler and Yuma County, do they provide exactly the same services? The same insurance for their employees as we do?
No, we're self.
No, so the program itself, they have their program, their set summary plan description, and then we have ours, but they do partner with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona. And so what we've been able to do is, with the assistance of Siegel, is say, okay, other City of Chandler, you have these services. We partner to see if we can receive another reduced rate for services. So we receive an additional services that are a reduced rate that'll help our members, not only here in Yuma, but if you go to Phoenix, any other location up in Tempe and so forth, you're going to receive those additional benefits, and it helps to benefit our plan.
Okay. Mr. Chair and Felicia, 5,000, is it going to, are we going to have a hard time maintaining that? I read where that.
Right. No, that same question was posed to our members of our Yuma County Employee Benefit Trust. We don't have to meet that overall, that the City of Chandler automatically meets those needs. We are just an additional, additional population that also helps to serve. So it's really, truly a benefit for us.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Does everybody understand? All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the item as presented. there anybody that's making a motion?
Oh, I'll move. So
Is there a-
moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
So
Is there a
moved,
mo-
sorry.
Is there a motion and a second to approve? Supervisor Simmons seconded. To approve the item as presented. Any further discussion? If there is no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion
Thank you.
carries. Thank you,
Thank you,
Felicia.
Felicia. And thanks, Siegel.
And the next item in the agenda, Roger, I was going to mention your future retirement before you left, but I guess you're leaving, yeah? You don't want me to do that. I passed you on the road just to get here faster than you did.
It's the first time I've.
Well, anyway, I'll mention it when you're not here, and it's going to make, it's going to be worse. All right, then, we move on to the next item. After the consent item is discussion and action items. The board will open each of the following items separately for discussion and action as appropriate. The first item is a public works pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes 11-936. We will conduct a public hearing to receive public comment regarding resolution number 2018-35, describing the powers and duties of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission, rescinding resolution number 97-78, paragraph 7, section P and R3, and rescinding resolution number 98-61 in its entirety. And there will be a discussion and possible action to adopt and authorize the chairman to sign resolution number 2018-35, formally adopting the powers and duties of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission, and rescinding resolution 97-98, paragraph 7, section P and R3, and rescinding resolution number 98-61 in its entirety. That was a big mouthful.
I missed part of that. Can you repeat that?
I can, but I won't. It's on the record. Yes, was proved. Correctly.
Long enough time.
Well, I should have told me that before.
You need a
I read it.
motion?
No, I'm just kidding. We do need it to do, no, we needed to, but we actually needed to do this so if the public was present or something, they would be aware of why we're postponing it. So all that wasn't in vain. It was okay. So I understand we didn't have the proper publication notice, so we're gonna have to redo this and, do it the right, way. So I'll either, do we need to take any action? Just move it. Just move on to the next item? We're moving on to the next item, people. Okay, then this was gonna be the big ticket item today. I was looking to it so much, forward to it, huh? All right, and we're gonna continue with the agenda, and the next item in the agenda is also for Development Service, and it's discussion and possible action concerning submitting an application for a grant for a joint land use study for the Yuma Proving Ground. Between, I guess, the county and Yuma Proving Grounds, correct? Before you begin, let me just set up the stage by telling you that, as far as I'm concerned, back when I got elected to the Board of Supervisors a few years back, one of the things that we always claim credit for, and we always took as a given, was that we had a joint land use plan with the city of Yuma that was kind of sort of like a national model, because it helped us sort of plan in a way that whatever we did, sort of matched what the city of Yuma was needing at the time, and the bases. It was actually designed to prevent encroachment in the bases. So this is not something that we haven't done in the past. It's something that we should be doing more often. So go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Maggie Castro, Planning and Zoning Planning and Zoning Director. I'm sorry, I'm suffering from allergies, so I'm a little clogged, yes. Yes, the intent is to conduct a joint land use study for YPG, and a similar study was done back in approximately 2003, 2004. That study was for the Berriem Goldwater Range. It's an extensive project. It requires a lot of work, a lot of participation from many stakeholders. So the purpose of this study for YPG is to address any compatibility issues that are taking place along the border of YPG. We have been approached by a couple staff members at YPG asking about some development concerns in the Martinez Lake area and also along the southern border of YPG. We were approached by Karen Safer with the Office of Economic Adjustment, with, yes, Office of Economic Adjustment, with the Department of Defense. And the purpose of today's item is just to ask direction from the board as to whether the board would like staff to proceed with applying for a grant to conduct the study.
Okay. I've already stated that I believe that doing this joint land use studies gives guidance to people when they're looking at where to go and so forth, and it saves us having to explain it all the time when they come to us. Any comments? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor?
encroachment on YPG would be very hazardous to Yuma County, and anything we can do to prevent that, I'm all for.
Supervisor McLeod?
Well, I take a little bit different approach. I think that anything that can potentially stifle growth at Martinez Lake is counter to Yuma County's interests. So I would be very wary of that.
I think Supervisor McLeod, I think we would actually know that during this particular process, and I think that there would be an opportunity to make those kind of comments and tailor that a little better. I think development, I like to think that this is not the purpose to stifle development, that it is to direct development in the proper way so that both the development of Martinez Lake and the protection of YPG is actually the goal. It's not to do one, it's not to pit one against the other, but it's to actually make sure that development can happen in an orderly way and that...
You said right now, though, that there's an issue with Martinez, that they're having an issue?
No, what I meant to say, or what I said, was that YPG is concerned with some of the development that is taking place in Martinez Lake, and they would like the study to address some of the development that's taking place and maybe ways to mitigate the concerns that they have with potential future development in the area.
Yeah, because I know there's a buffer of state land, I think, on the east side between Martinez, and then there's state trust land, and then YPG. So I'm wondering, is it the issue of the height, maybe, of some of the buildings? We don't know? Or?
They're having more of an issue with the density that the development is
so close to YPG.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always like that. I mean, it's the same problem we've had here surrounding the base or the airport. But I think I do agree that we're a pro-development kind of board. I mean, we've always been that way. I think we've shown it throughout the years. But I think sometimes it's missing. It's people get to actually see the impact of development and not in the way some of us see it, but in the way that some of the bases and some of the other active participants in that area, especially the bases. Encroachment is really a big issue in some of these particular areas. But I think at some particular, the problem is at some particular point in time, those developments are going to come to us, and then we're going to ask the base and we're going to ask the military to give us their take on it. And normally they've been pretty good about it. Normally, we certainly don't want to mess that up by having it not stated. Things like height, things like density, they need to be addressed ahead of time. So people don't spend a lot of money trying to get development going, and then we have to make a decision whether what we care most about is the base or whether we care most about approving grounds or we care more about development. It shouldn't be that issue. It shouldn't be an unknown issue. That people should know what the environment is and what they are allowed or what they should be allowed to do without interfering with the operations. It's a difficult line to walk, but I think the more information's out there, the better off it is for us when it comes to us, because the issues are out in the open. I mean, that's my take on it. Is there anything else you guys want to add? I mean, I know that Supervisor McLeod has a problem with anything that stifles development. I sort of have some similar concerns, but at the end of the day, we do these studies to make sure that when it comes to us, we'll be more informed than people who are. Again, giving people sort of a guideline in the process. Well, okay, well, this may not be a unanimous vote. Anybody else has any comments? All right, well, I'll entertain a motion to, remember, what we're doing here is basically giving the staff direction to go forth and try to get a grant or a subsidy to finance this study, right? So we're not yet doing the study, and we're not yet, and remember, studies are guidelines, and we don't have to accept it, but it'd be good to know what the views of these different participants are. Do I hear a motion to approve or disapprove?
I move, so moved.
To approve. Is
To
there a
approve.
second?
I'll second.
You see, I told you, there's been a motion and a second to approve going out there and getting funding for a study to be done concerning joint land use planning. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Well, see, it went unanimous.
Thank you.
See, cooler hills prevail.
Well, with the new road going in out there too, we need to know.
We need to know. Okay, the next item is human resources. We will hear, maybe not see, huh? We will hear a presentation from Seagull Consulting of the dependent employer, medical plan contribution, independent employee, medical plan contribution for future plan years, and provide direction to staff. Before you begin, let me tell you that the article in the newspaper basically said we were looking for ways to shift the cost into the employees, which is never a really good way to start, a discussion. But then I'll blame the newspaper.
Poor Blake.
Blake,
Sorry, Blake.
I'm just kidding. It's just how you read it. It's like you guys say, we'll hear a presentation and then you put it up on the board, right? All right.
Good
Go ahead,
morning,
Felicia.
members of the board. Felicia Foster, HR Director. As you may recall, back in March of 2018, we brought to you the premium rate adjustments for our plan. And of course, at that time, you adopted that we had no premium increases to the employer and the employee costs. We also had discussion about looking at possibly shifting any cost to the employee over a period of time, but we wanted to see some strategies. We want to bring to you today information so that we could start giving you information way in advance so that this way you can determine if that's something you'd like to look at in this next upcoming budget year and years future. But also, if there is any discussion at that time, it also helps us to prepare our employees with those possible changes that would occur over whatever specific amount of time. Today is that we're just presenting the information to you, asking your direction. You might decide that you want to have us to look at it, further study even beyond this, but it really is just a presentation that Seagull is going to provide to you today. We can get your feedback and information, and then whatever additional information, we can also start sharing that with our employees. And we do have an employee health team committee, and all the information that we share today, we share it with them. We go back out, share the information with the employees, get their information, and then of course we bring it back to you at a later time. So what I'd like to be able to do at this time is introduce Aaron Pokowski, who's from Seagull. And at this time, he's going to present to you the presentation of a 5-year model and with different illustrations.
I like the 14-year model.
Yeah.
Well, hold on just a second. I have a question.
Question. Supervisor McLeod.
For, I don't know, 3-4 years, we had a plan of 2% a year. What happened to that plan? And we didn't do it this year, and I did protest that. I thought we should have. That was the plan, 2% a year until we got to 50-50. Why did we toss that, and then why are we revisiting it?
So, members of the board, Supervisor McLeod, we had a plan with regards to the discussion, but there was nothing ever put in place with, when we look at all of our approvals and awards, it never said that this is going to be the strategy that within the next 5 years that we will then have shifted any additional cost to the employee. We would evaluate it each year depending on what our fiscal outcome could be, that we would be able to say to the employees, this is what we would be asking you to contribute for your dependent costs. We also looked at the strategy with comparison to other entities, organizations, to see what their benefit costs would be, to determine if we were going to, once again, shift additional costs to our employees and reduce the amount of costs that the employers contributing to their dependents. So with that, knowing that that information, that we did not have it in place, that's why we are coming back to you now. And we made that statement back in March of 2018 to say we need a plan, because we don't have a plan that is actually definitive for our employees to understand that this is what they would be required to do over a period of time.
Did that satisfy
I'll
you?
accept that.
If I remember correctly, we were discussing whether a 1 or 2%, increase was really, it is necessary. The point is that, what we're looking at right now is a long-term strategy as opposed to a single year, every year coming up here. And I'd like to tell everyone, these are all projections. Some of them change basically because things don't work out the way they work out. The way they're projected. In terms of what I think, or the reason I think we didn't go for a 2% increase or any type of increase is because the plan worked well. It was the recommendation was, look, you can continue with this without hurting it, without an increase at this particular time. What I'm looking at right now, though, is a longer term look at things, and you have to assume that given the current trends, you need to make some adjustments now that are small in nature, as opposed to making a big adjustment sometime down the road, 3 or 4 years down the road, kicking that can to the next board of supervisors so that they can complain about it now. They should have done something in the past. So, we're going to look at that right now. Today's your day, but
Oh, you.
No.
Martine,
Let's
you get
let's
it
put him
every
on the
time.
spot so he can make a decision, so there's no complaining in the future. Go ahead, Felicia.
Okay, so with that, I will allow,
Didn't get a break.
permit Aaron to go
You
forward
earned
and give his
that last week.
presentation.
You earned that last week.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just to speak to that, Chairman Reyes, these are models, and what we did, I just want to first point out that it's difficult when we look at strategies like this, and I do want this to be a strategical discussion, to stretch it out over several years. And so what we did with this is we put it in today's dollars with today's contributions, knowing that healthcare does not increase incrementally the same each year. There's good years, there's bad years, and everything in between. And there's also other variables that play a factor. So what we did is we looked at today's dollars, and then note that any adjustments down the road, if you look at a strategy of making adjustments over 2 years, over 5 years, over 14 years, or whatever that may be, any of those amounts would be compounded by any increases in the cost of healthcare. And as you know, there's a lot of moving parts also when you look at these models. And I can say it without my actuarial and analytical staff in the room. There's a lot of numbers on this page. We didn't stretch it out to an 11 by 17, but it illustrates the fact that much can be sensitive when you make adjustments like this down the road. So with that, the first strategy we looked at is if you were to get to a strategy of contribution where the county would contribute 50% at the 5-year mark or over 5 years. So essentially we took even increments and adjusted that level to get to 50-50. And just as a reminder, going back to March, your contribution structure right now is set up such that the county contributes 64% of the dependent contribution, and then the member themselves contribute the other 36% of that. So this first model looks at just essentially 3% each of the 4 years, and then 2% in the 5th year, just to get to that 14% that would be needed to get to the 50-50 level. A lot of numbers here, but this side of the page, this is the contribution structure that you have in place today. You have the 2 PPO options, option A, option B, and then your high deductible option with health savings account, broken down with the employer contribution, the employee contribution, and you get a total rate. So essentially, if we were to look at adjusting 3% over on this side of those sheets, and I know it's very small to see up here on the presentation, but you do have these in front of you, this would be the incremental monthly change. So just for an example here, if you were to adjust and shift 3% to the dependent contributor in this first year, if it would be done this year for an employee, family on PPO plan A, that would mean an increase of about $37 per month in premium costs. So that looks about the same when you look at the other PPO plan, and then just a slight difference with the HSA plan, because of course that dependent contribution is less. Now I'm not going to go over each of these slides, but you can see the impact that this would have now when we move to the 5842 structure. So if you're looking over a 5-year period, again, in today's dollars with today's contributions, that monthly incremental increase would be $74. So looking all the way over.
Is that inclusive of the first year?
This would be inclusive, that's correct.
Inclusive,
yeah, because
right?
it just shifts, and,
Right.
and that's actually a good point to make. That we're looking at, when we look at this, we still need the same amount of dollars to cover the cost of the plan. So essentially you're shifting the contribution structure, some from the county portion to the employee portion, essentially. So
Right, I just wanted to point out it wasn't 37 plus 74.
Correct.
This is incremental.
Correct.
Including the prior years.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh,
So this would get us to a 5842, and then if we move along, year 3, 5545, we're just adding again 3% shift. That amount would be 11146, and again, I'm just using the employee plus family PPO amount as the example. Year 4, 14862, and then year 5, just get there evenly, this would be a 2% adjustment to get to that full 50/50, and you'd be looking at $173.38. Again, that's in today's dollars. If you were to adjust that, obviously that number would be more. Medical trend is in the neighborhood of 6% year over year. So if you were to compound things, of course, those numbers would look quite different. But of course, your plan could change 5 years from now as well.
And just to make it clear, this is the dependent.
This is the
contribution.
dependent.
It's not the employee insurance plan.
Yep.
Correct. So looking at a total shift here to go to the 50/50 contribution from the 6436 would be, in today's dollars, again, about $712,000. So a shift from the county over to the dependent or employee side of the equation.
So Blake, you were right.
So we did also look at some other transitional models, and you can interpolate in between these. Obviously, anywhere in between, whether you do a 2% adjustment or a 5% adjustment, to get there, essentially you need to make up 14 to get to that 50/50 structure. So we looked at, okay, what if you were to jump in 2 years, or if you were to jump over 14 years? Obviously, the 2-year would be pretty significant jumps the first couple years. Currently, we have the jump over here to year 2. Now, if we were to look at the 1% increment year over year, this would be a very slight adjustment year over year. So your rates would go from 445 to 458 to 470 and so on until you get up to that 619.20, which would be the projected family rate in today's dollars for PPO coverage.
All right. Yeah, Supervisor Packard. So we're looking at a shift.
And
Go ahead.
Chairman Reyes, why are we doing this?
You want an answer?
Yes, please.
You're being sensitive. I will say one thing, that you mentioned that it shifts the burden from the county to the employee. I have a different way of looking at that. It shifts the burden from the taxpayer to the employees. And the thing is, this plan, even when you get to 50/50 independence, is incredibly rich compared to what's out there in the private industry. And these kind of dollars, our employees were hit with far more than that over the years, with the cost of health insurance going up. So, I love our employees. They do a great job, but we're also responsible to the taxpayers. And years ago, this was recognized. That's why there was supposed to be a very small march toward that number, which we didn't do this year. And there were reasons for that. That's fine. But eventually, we should get to a 50/50 which, as I said, is still incredibly rich, far better than most other entities have, far better than most private companies provide.
Well, all I want to say is that we're certainly not competing with the private sector in terms of employees. People come to work for government for some reasons. And some of them happen to be the benefits involved, not necessarily the salaries involved, but the benefits involved. So, we walk that line where we say, okay, well, you're leaving some money on the table if you want to work for AT&T or whatever,
Right.
because you're coming to work for government. But here's the flip side of that. You get, retirement, you get,
Defined
insurance, you
benefit
get,
retirement.
you get certain benefits that aren't available to the private sector or are available to the private sector but are not as rich. I mean, if you compare it to what Microsoft might be offering people over in, Silicon Valley, well, there's all kinds of other benefits. We don't offer gym membership. I do, but we don't offer gym membership here. Those type of things. We offer certain other things like student debt payoffs. We offer for the attorneys. We do certain things that are different, and it's something that I'm proud of. But every once in a while you do have to take a look at who's bearing the cost, and essentially when we give someone benefits, it does come from the taxpayers. Although, and I understand the concept. That's why before you begin the presentation, I said I like the 14-year plan. It's a 1%. It's not noticeable. It happens. We tend to want to go there. It's how fast we're going to get there that I think. And when I say we, I'm talking about Supervisor McLeod and myself. I'm not really sure whether Supervisor Simmons or Supervisor Porchas or Supervisor Pancrasy. I mean, it seems to me like we talked about this, but I don't think we talked about it in a way that, okay, it's in front of you, make a decision. I mean, we talked about the fact of why are we not doing this? And because we have a lot more institutional history, I think we understand that better. And that's why it's in front of us, because in the past we said, look, let's look at a shift. And I do like gradual shifts. We're not kicking the can down the road just to kick the can down the road. We're trying to make sure that this transition happens in a way that it doesn't impact employees who get a 1 or 2 or 3% raise every year, and then they get a 2 or 3% increase on their cost. So that $50 increase in salary, it's eaten up by the $50 increase on. Well, I mean, it was the first year, wasn't it? What was it? $76 a month, right?
Depending which
Well, I mean,
model.
but it was. Yeah, it went to 170. Well, it added up.
$37.
Yeah, for $37
For 1 year.
every two. What is it? Isn't it every month?
No.
Yeah, so depending which increment you would look at, so it would be $37 per month.
Per
would be-
month.
Would be the 3%.
All right.
in
Well,
today's
if you look
dollars.
at $37 per month over a 12-month period, what are you looking at? Somebody, Jim, mathematics. Hey, you got to do this quickly, Jim. Oh, we should test the new budget director by asking him how much $40 times 12. That's $480. That's approximately about $450 extra a year that an employee would have to pay to keep his family insured. And that may not seem like a lot every month, but when you add it up over a year, it probably means that whatever salary increase he got, it went to pay for that.
2% of a $40,000 salary is an $800 a year increase. So you're not eating it up.
Well, that's a matter of perspective. I think the government eats up about 30% of that already, so, in
Question?
taxes. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
But not only the cost of
Go ahead.
of that shifting toward the employee, but also insurance is still gonna go up. So, I mean, if it's $37 right now, it might be 50 by the time next year we get, we looked at insurance.
It could be.
So
It could be.
we know it's gonna be. I mean, maybe not 50, but it's gonna go up either next year or the following year, but it's gonna go up. One of the things that other entities do is they provide a good benefit because they don't want their employees, they can't pay a good salary, so they don't leave because they have a good benefit plan. And we start doing this, and we'll start getting a turnover ratio on different departments that in the end, at the long run, it's going to cost us more because training or losing employees. just something to keep in mind.
That's a boogeyman argument.
Yeah, Supervisor Pancrazy.
I don't have the institutional history that you two have, but how does our ratio compare to the city of San Luis, city of Somerton, the city of Yuma, the
Yeah,
city of
the
Belton?
competing entities.
The competing entities that are also part of ASRS, how do we compare to them? Are they all 50-50 or are they 67-46 or how, you know what I'm saying?
Chairman Reyes,
We had a
members of the
presentation not
board,
long
yes,
ago.
I sure did.
Did I-
Supervisor
did I-
Pancrazy, we actually do exceptionally well with regards to the benefits that we provide. We, because of those other entities, they do not contribute as much as to their dependent. You stated a few. I can definitely tell you that we've had recent employees who have left Yuma County, and then they have returned within 3 months, less than 2 weeks. And many of their statements is that I thought that because I was receiving a higher increase in pay, that once I actually elected the medical benefits, I did not receive anything. I was actually paying more and I was taking home less. And they also saw that there was other things that we as a county are able to provide that we've already had from an HR perspective, asked them if they would be willing to do testimonials for us, that we would be able to place them on our website to kind of say, why would you want to work for Yuma County?
Right.
And all those different things. So we've done the research. Each year as we are preparing for our open enrollment or even any presentation to you about our premium rate increases, we try to make sure we bring that information to you to let you know, to see how competitive we are, because we understand that due to times with the funding that we may not be able to give large increases or any type of increases to our employees for their performance or increases to the pay scale. This help offsets that.
All right. You know, if there was an argument that could sway my vote, it's the fact that what we like to provide the employee for free, not for free, but what we like to pay for the employee, it's his insurance. When we start subsidizing the dependent coverage, then, you know, then we're using funds to go beyond that. You know, in other words, we're offering additional benefits that may at some particular point in time take money that we need to make sure that that employee's, rates stay the same, for example. I mean, that, that's probably the biggest argument to me would be, look, if we don't watch the numbers soon, we'll end up subsidizing more of the dependent coverage, and then it would impact the way we have to deal with the initial coverage, the coverage for the dependent. So to me, it's trying to find a balance that allows us to continue to provide that service with the least amount of cost to the county, and to have that employee covered. One way or another, money's got to come from somewhere, and if it doesn't come from us, it comes from the taxpayers. And if we don't find a way to balance this, we'll be dealing with increases on the primary insurance that we deal with. It's a discussion we have every year, and I think we'll continue having it every year. And I think that the 50-50 split was something that we felt at the time we were talking about it would help us sort of level off, who's paying for what, and at the same time provide us with a way of actually saying to the employees that only have their coverage paid for, look, we're not subsidizing somebody's dependence on your back. And so to me, that's the argument that drove most of this, and it's always driven by the fact that we're looking ahead and we're trying to predict large increases, that we're trying to make sure that the employee doesn't feel the brunt of increases because we managed to plan well. I think that there are some things that work well for us here that are allowing us to have no increases when everybody else is having 3, 5, 10, 7%, 6% increases. And it's because we look at the future. We have a very good, Siegel consultant that allows us to take a look, not just at what's happening today, but what, is normally the trend, and that we need to make some adjustments along the way. To me, it's either I go back to the experience we had, and I think you've had it too, Supervisor Porches, as a mayor, when you don't deal with sewer or water rates gradually, that you wait too long, and then all of a sudden you're faced with the fact that you thought for 10 years that, you were doing okay, but you didn't do much for 10 years, and then all of a sudden it hits you that you needed to increase it by 20% when you could have done 2% for 5 years or whatever it is for 10 years, and you could have done it. It's the magic of compounding, as I call it. In this particular case, I don't think the program itself is in any kind of trouble. It is more, a philosophical situation that we say, look, why wait until it is in trouble? Why don't we do some shift? I just don't think that the argument that, we want employees to pay more sells well. I think that the argument, we're trying to make sure that the plan continues to be, solid, and that it doesn't have any dramatic increases in it because we failed to take small decisions of a small kind, and now we have to make big decisions. It is, I think, obvious to everybody that's been listening to this that the probabilities of cost increasing over time are there, and that we probably cannot sustain not raising, the coverages, the cost of coverage, without at some particular point in time the reserves going down and things just happening to get to a difficult situation. I do joke about not leaving or not kicking the can too far down the road for other supervisors to have to deal with, but it's the truth. We certainly don't want to do that. So we look at these things while they're not pleasurable at all, especially when you put it in the context of shifting costs to the employee. But at the end of the day, we try to be fair to everybody, not just the people who have dependent coverages, but the people who have coverage, period, that we're paying for. So to me, gradual, if the consultant is suggesting gradual increases to avoid having a major shift in cost, then we need to take a look at that for the benefit of the whole plan.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I appreciate your comments, because what you're talking about right now is the sustainability of the plan. That's where this conversation began.
Oh,
and when you look at $750,000 a year that we can put toward, helping cover the employees in general without raising their rates, that's where this started a long time ago, and I appreciate you pointing that out. So, I think you've brought us a very good plan. It's not heavy-handed. It puts us where we wanted to get to be in a reasonable period of time. So, I like the plan that you put forward, and I thank you for going through the work to bring that to us today. I also understand your point. While it was informal that we were going 2% a year, this formalizes where we want to get to, and I appreciate that.
Well, it would formalize it if the rest of the Board of Supervisors feels like that's the way they want to go. I do want to emphasize that this is a process, that you're listening to this, and this is the informational process. There is no, it's not an item in the agenda that you have to make a decision on. This is an item that you got to listen, and if I feel that the longer you stretch it, the least felt, the least it will be felt, and you're still accomplishing something. It's just how fast you want to do it. If you want to do it in 2 years, I don't think anyone is going to say it's fine. If you want to do it in 5 years, I'd say that's a little steep, but it can be done. But if you wanted to do it in 7 years, 2% a year for 7 years. So if you wanted to do it in 14 years, 1% every year, to me, the fact is that we're looking at a situation that we want to have resolved, and that we need to make a decision. Even if it's a small decision, it's a decision that would show that we're serious about keeping the plan steady and solid throughout time. We may have to, at some particular time, make a decision that, okay, this is not working out, it's not big enough, or it's too small or something, or we don't want to shift 50-50 as fast, or the Board of Supervisors decides that they want one thing or the other. That's a decision we make every year. Nothing that we decide now, it's really set in stone. If the plan doesn't work, if it requires a more aggressive stance on our part, we would have to make that decision every year anyway. But this sort of sets the tone that we are trying to protect the taxpayers' money, that we're trying to even out the cost, so that everybody gets an even benefit from it, and that we're taking a look at this from a responsible perspective. Okay, that'd be my spiel.
What kind of guidance is needed?
Well, I think they brought forth what we asked them. We asked them to see if we could level it 50-50. And when I say we, I'm not necessarily including, you guys in the discussion. You know, I think that,
That was
I
5 years
think.
ago. That was 5 years ago.
I think we did it now because Supervisor Porteous is pushing us towards, you know, some sort of decision now, not leave it to someone later type of thing, so.
No,
you know,
you left
wait a
it
minute.
to us. I mean, it
Yeah,
was
you
5 years. Now you see why I complain about it.
And this was brought up,
Felicia,
Felicia, when did this thing start up? Like
5 years ago.
this year.
And we have made movement.
We have made straight. We
Keep
have
staying on it.
we made some. Look,
Keep bragging on
what
it.
I want to say to the new supervisors is that most of the stuff that's happening now was based on decisions made a long time ago, either by the budget director suggesting it, or by the Seagull suggesting it, or by the benefit team suggesting it, and by the administrator, you know, buying into it. The fact that this year we didn't increase the rates, it's really a result of decisions made not this year. It was decisions made in the past. And I think that that's been the the model of operation that we followed. And I think it goes back to making this kind of decisions that, while they may not be popular when you make them, they do make sure that you don't deal with emergencies or with higher cost increases at a particular time later on. So to me, the decision, I guess the first decision I need from the board is whether we want to continue going towards that 50-50, or whether we think it's a 60-40 preposition, or whether we think we can do it faster or slower. First of all, I'd like to take sort of like a consensus here. Do we want to go that way? Do we want to make sure that at some particular point, dependent coverage is covered more by the people who need it, as opposed to the people who don't need it, that have to sort of subsidize a little bit, you know, the payment for family coverage? Is that what do I see here? Do you guys want to keep going, or?
I want to move to a 50-50.
Well,
my thing is, well, you're saying, do we want to continue? Did we ever start it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's how it's here. I
But
mean,
no,
if
they're asking for like a 1% every year, 2%.
We've already done 2% a couple of years.
But
we did it in
no,
the past.
but they're asking us
Right
for
now.
direction.
Yeah,
If
they're
we
asking
wanna
for
do
direction.
that. If we want it in a 14-year, 7-year, that's every year. It's not.
Yeah, no,
We have
that's
been
every
doing
year.
it each year, except this year. We did not.
Wait,
Not at a percentage.
until we
that-
get
2%.
until we get to 50-50,
That's
Yeah.
right.
and then it stops.
Then it stops.
No, we've been moving
I
the
mean,
needle.
hold
We
on-
just
hold on,
haven't
Chair.
moved it.
I mean, if we're, why are we getting this presentation if we are doing it already?
Because it wasn't formal.
Because it wasn't formalized.
It was informal.
It was informal. Yeah. That's why they're doing
So
it.
they act on informal decisions or direction.
Well, when they put together.
No, the board was
no.
giving the direction during the budget.
And-
It was an informal decision made by the board several years ago to go 2% a year. We did that,
And then we
but we
quit.
didn't do it this year
We didn't do it this year.
because there were no
I'm
increase in
confused.
plan.
Do we have it or we don't? Each year.
Turn on your speaker.
This is a policy.
Didn't do it. We didn't do it. That's why you didn't say it.
And decrease the part the employer is paying. It's been ad hoc.
The EBT board to prepare their proposed health plans and percentages. And it also provides employees with enough notice that they know, okay, this is what's going to be happening over this period of time. They can plan ahead. They know generally what it's going to be. So it just helps everyone understand what the future holds. So having a policy by the board about where you want to get to, first of all, what number percentage, and then if you want to get to whatever that percentage is, how long do you want to take to get there to provide guidance to the health insurance board? That is what we're looking for today.
Yeah, it's more guidance.
There was no policy ever set.
No,
So
there
it
hasn't
was-
been a policy in the
Yeah,
past.
so
Just
That's
been
what I
dealt
mean
with
by
on a yearly
informal.
basis.
What was it?
We discussed it year to year, and that was the plan.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. If we wanted to have it
Formal.
percentage or form or on a policy, this is what actually we're talking about.
Correct.
You know, yeah.
This is formal guidance.
So if they come next year and insurance goes up, I mean, are we gonna talk about it? Okay,
Sure.
we said 2% a year to get to 50%, and now, okay, now this year is gonna be 5% because
No.
But
No.
the insurance is gonna go up.
Let
the
me
insurance is
back-
gonna go up.
back it
So,
up
I
a
mean,
little.
are we gonna make that
Back
decision?
every year.
Every year.
That's the point that I was going to make. Look, this gives guidance because when people like Seagull do projections, they like to make long-term projections. And so they like to have a little more guidance from us in what to do over the long term. Over the short term, they're going to be bringing recommendations to the benefit team, who then will review them and send them over to the Board of Supervisors for them to make the final decision. If at some particular point in time, there's a need to increase the rate, it will be an individual decision every year. It won't be over. In other words, if we make a decision today, it doesn't mean that this is like set in stone over the next 7 years or 5 years or 14 years. What it means is that at least they'll be able to plug in some numbers to make sure that we get a more balanced, if nothing else, a more balanced, a number that balances one thing versus the other. I'm sure that if more revenue comes in at this particular end, it will reduce the weight or the load on the benefits that we provide to everybody. Again, guys, this is a kind of a simple. To me, it's going to get to a simple black and white decision whether we formalize a policy that we already have informally that happens haphazardly because we really don't have a formal process, or we simply say, look, we're going to deal with this year after year over year because we haven't really made a decision to go 50-50. Because it could be 60-40, it could be, whatever. I mean, it's just a decision that we made a long time ago that needs to be reinforced by the current board. If the current board doesn't feel that we need to go 50-50, then, this is the time you need to make those arguments, or you need to vote in favor of a different formula. I mean.
Chairman Reyes, it also helps human resources in our discussion with Siegel when we're preparing for the scenarios, saying here's a premium rate increase. At least we can say, here's what the premium rate increase would be. And then if you can give us direction that we're looking at a 1% over the next 14 years, then we know it's just 1%. Otherwise, I'm having conversations with our county administrator, Susan, saying, okay, Susan, what about this scenario, this scenario? Okay, here's Siegel, can you give us these scenarios? What about this? And so I'm thinking about, can you give me all this information? And then they're trying to put it all together. If we automatically know, and he knows, okay, well, the board has said that they like to look at 1% each year, he's going to give us a slide presentation with, here's our premium rate increase, here's what the premium rate increase would be, also with the 1% of the shift contribution that the employee's now being asked to pay, instead of once again, trying to figure out what do we need to do.
So
Mr. Chair?
it's a
Hold on a minute.
policy that it's gonna be in place. Because you made the comment about it's not set in stone. Well, if we do 2% for 7 years, it's set in, it's 2% every year for the employee and that's what she's talking about, that it's gonna help her to determine what the rates, if rates go up but what I'm saying is, if the rates go up, are we gonna be changing that policy? Because if we wanna make a change to that policy, we're gonna have to look at it again, because we say 2%, it's gonna be 2% every year.
Okay, let me see if I can. I mean, maybe I need to get some clearance myself. What you're asking for is for direction from the board of whether we want to continue to achieve a 50-50 split on the dependent coverage, family and dependent coverage, right? You're asking us either you make that a formal process so that so the numbers can be utilized to achieve whatever the rate may be in the future, or we're going to end up doing this year by year. If we don't do anything, it will remain the way it is. That's what will be used. That this discussion won't be had. Now, the question that Supervisor Porches, I think, is making is, if we make this a policy, it won't come back to us. It'd be the number you plug in to come up with the final recommendation. When I say it's not set on stone, it's because obviously assume that every year we're going to be looking at the impact of those changes on the employee. And every year we get to say, no, this is, we're not gonna do a 2%, we're gonna do a 1, or we're gonna do a 3 or something. We make that decision every time. And I think that this is just one of the factors that get plugged into that decision. The decision of how much we increase it or decrease it or keep it at the same rate is a decision we make every year. But in some ways, this is giving you direction how to get there. And this would mean if we decide to go forth either with 7 years, 5 years, or 14 years, that means that that number will be plugged in to achieve that final recommendation that's made to us. Correct? Do you understand that?
Mr. Chair.
But it's still gonna be.
Oh, it's going to be
a
used.
policy.
It's going to be used.
I know it's gonna come back, either, because
That's
it's
a full
insurance,
decision.
yeah, but that 2%, it's gonna be.
Well, 1%.
Or 1%.
Whatever.
It's gonna be set in, it's a policy. You guys gotta follow
You're
that.
going to use it.
This is a
No.
question for legal, am I right, or Mike?
Am I right or am I wrong?
Right, you will be providing guidance to the YCEBT board that will bring back those recommendations to you that incorporate that piece. Now, when it comes to the board, then you can say, well, this year, let's not do that. Let's change it again. So you can make that
You can make
decision
the final
annually,
decision.
but you've given guidance so that everything will be prepared for you that has that guidance already in it. You can undo it on a year-by-year basis if you want,
Yeah.
but we would be preparing all the recommendations based on what that policy direction is.
If it sounds too much like government talk, I'll answer that way. Yes, it will be used to determine the rate.
Do we want, so you're looking for years, or you're looking for percentages?
Both. Years and percentage.
Well-
20 years, 1%.
Hey, no, you can't, because you will shift it over. You can only be 14%. It's only
Yeah.
14%.
That's 14 years.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor
right now,
Bancroft.
Felicia, right now, we're at 6743, right?
We're at 6436.
We're at what?
Currently, Supervisor
66.
President, we're at 6436.
6436.
And so for
Okay.
public sake, so the county is paying 64% towards our employee dependent coverage, and the employees paying 36% of that dependent coverage.
Okay. Well, how much would it be if we went 60/40? I mean, if we got down to a 60/40 instead of a 50/50? It wouldn't be,
Yeah, so,
is that
essentially
on
then
one of your charts?
It'd be a 4% shift.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
What you could do, you could look at this 1% model here,
Yes,
or split it up differently if you wish to get there quicker.
Uh-huh.
But essentially, you would get that 4% over a 4-year period. You'd be going 4% instead of 14%.
I get you,
So
I get you.
your rate
There's
for
a big
family
picture.
would go from 445.84 to 495.36 in today's dollars.
In 4 years.
in 4 years.
But it's the same thing, it's where you stop, really, that you're discussing now. It's not, the rate, because if you say you want 10% and you want to do it over 10 years, if you want the shift to be 10%, as opposed to 5% or 4% or 3%, all you have to do is pick the number of years this is going to be implemented on, if that's what you wanted, and if you wanted to pick that up.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you-
that would be a compromise right now to go to 60/40, and then
And then redecide
after
again?
4 years, we can look at it again. No?
Okay, Supervisor McLeod, since you're the troublemaker here, you go ahead and figure it out, all right?
Here's what I think is being forgotten. What happens currently is that when there is a rate increase, because we are contributing so much over and above
It goes
the
up.
50/50,
Our amount goes huge.
the
yeah.
employees that don't need that coverage are subsidizing the employees who do. It's not fair to them. To be fair to everybody, you take this money that we save by going to a 50/50, apply that to the overall premium increase that is required, and the individual employees who we provide coverage for that pay their portion, it doesn't have to go up. So all employees are treated equally, instead of those that are on a plan that's higher than,
Unless you're-
takes
yes,
into
kids, yeah.
account family or
Okay.
spouses. By decreasing the load provided to the overall plan, we're being fair to those employees, we're being fair to all employees, instead of subsidizing some.
Well,
Well,
that can be a totally different argument.
From the
Because I
other
can-
side.
Yeah, because I can say someone that's older than me and has a more expenses, medical expenses, he's the one that's driving the insurance up. So.
Yeah, us old people are driving insurance.
Yeah, that.
That's the way group insurance works, but what we're talking about
look,
is
guys,
the benefits and how rich they are.
I think we
And
need
we've
to.
agreed previously that we should be at a 50-50. I
well,
still agree with that.
All right. Okay, look, I think that the agreement, the 50-50 agreement, is not an agreement this board made. It's an agreement some board members made some time ago. And what this is about, it's about how this board feels and how comfortable they feel about moving that needle, how much and how soon and how fast, if at all. So the thing I wanted to know first is, okay, where is the board here now on that 50-50 split? Is it too much? Is it too little? Once you make that decision, then we can move forward to deciding how long it's going to take to get there, okay? So what's the preferred, if at all, again, what's the preferred split that you guys will be looking at that you guys can sort of agree to? Is it I know we talk 50-50, but it seems to me like we're having some differences of opinion here.
I can help you with that.
How?
I move that we decide as a board to move to a 50-50 split over a time frame yet to be determined.
All right, is there a second to that?
I'll second.
All right, so the policy would be to move the split 50-50 first. Then we'll talk about the time it'll take to get there. There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 You want, I had a question on that.
Oh, all right. Okay, well, look, I'll take back the vote and we'll have a discussion on it. We didn't finish voting anyway. So what's your, excuse me, your comments?
Yeah, I mean, is that what you were asking or just to give direction to?
No. Okay, what we're asking
Well,
is there a decision? We need to make a decision. We need to make a decision whether we're going to move to some point or not, and what that point is going to be, if we decide to move forward with it. Right now, the motion on the floor is to move to a 50-50 split. Now, if the majority of the board decides that's what the policy is going to be, that's what it's going to be, first and foremost. Then we'll talk about how long it will take for us to get there. I'll entertain another motion to talk about whether it'll be a 2-year process, a 5-year process, a 14-year process. Okay, but first we need to decide whether the 50-50 is a split that the majority of the board wants. Now, that's not to say that someone else in the board cannot suggest a different split. And then we'll talk about the years it will take to get to that different split. There's also the slim possibility that the board would decide that the split's okay as it is. Okay, so we'll move on that process. Right, so now we have a motion to go 50-50. All those in favor of the motion
Chairman,
signify.
I'll call for a roll call vote, please.
Oh, it's going to be easy to figure out who voted in favor or against it. But go ahead, we'll call for a roll call vote. Which only means that I'll probably end up making the decision. Because I'm the last one to vote.
Supervisor McLeod.
Well, you can vote first. Aye.
Supervisor Simmons.
Aye.
Supervisor Pancrazy.
No.
Supervisor Porches.
No, but I want to explain my vote. The reason I'm voting no is because I need more information on when every year they're going to come and make a presentation to us about if the insurance is going to go up. Who are we going to, I mean, is it something that the county is going to get, is going to pay for it, or are we going to shift more to the employee when, you know, in that year? The money that we save the first year, because the county's going to save money, are we going to save it, put it on so the following year it goes up, we cover it, or, you know, that's just questions that I need. And
Answers to.
But the answer is no.
Or answers.
The answer is it goes toward the increase in premium costs overall.
It's
And then that lowers the burden to the individual employees.
That's year by year.
Okay.
That's a decision made year by year.
Supervisor
right?
Reyes.
Well, I'll wait until everybody.
Well,
What-
that's.
Okay.
What I'm looking at though too, Supervisor too, Chairman Reyes,
Mhm.
is we're wanting to go to a pay for performance type deal, which more or less is going to guarantee our employees a 2% or maybe more. If we're going to start doing that every year, then that'll definitely help offset where if there's a year we don't give them a raise, we have that opportunity to say, no, we're going to leave it alone. we're not gonna do that increase.
Mr. Chairman, your vote's being called, so if it fails or goes,
Yeah,
maybe
then we
the
move on, but it's
discussion's moot
okay,
at
this is part
time.
of the discussion, it's okay. This is, I open up for discussion.
Anyway,
so-
that's what.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
All right.
Supervisor Reyes?
No. And the reason I vote no is because we need to be all together on this one. I mean, I think that I see everybody inclined to go ahead and change and shift that, but I don't see everybody inclined to do it 50-50. So I'm gonna, hopefully that the board members that wanted 50-50, I was included in them, would see a way to get to a point where we can all agree that that we need to make a shift. We may not need to make that big of a shift, but we need to start shifting. And, this is an opportunity for the board members that weren't in agreement with the 50-50 to suggest another rate. Otherwise, we're going to end up, with a split vote, which is not unusual. It happens. But I like to get everybody on board with the fact that what we like to do is keep this system healthy and keep the process going so that we avoid having those big increases when we don't make decisions. So I would suggest that the vote is 3-2 against this 50-50 split. Now, is there another split that we can work on?
I move a 60-40 split.
60-40 split. Is there a second?
Oh, yeah, well.
No, we will talk about the time it'll take to get there when we figure out a split first.
No, I mean, and we don't have to do, I think we need, personally, before I even ask for a second, I'd like to have more discussion on, I need to meet with Felicia a little bit more and understand this process a whole lot more before I agree or disagree. I mean.
Yeah,
Russell,
Supervisor Pancrase, you're not going to make me regret my vote, are you?
No.
By moving this, to another time, because I think that,
No.
This is not a
Oh,
big
okay.
policy decision. This is a very small policy decision that philosophically is more important than actually what it means in terms of money. It's the philosophical arguments that we're making right now. To be more informed about it, well, probably, it's kind of simple. It's, it's whether we start dealing with the fact that we're paying what some of us consider too much of the dependent coverage at the stake of people of the people that
Who don't have
who don't pay anything. And so to me, it didn't seem to be much of an argument about whether we wanted to move that way. It was how fast and how much. Okay, and how fast we haven't even gotten to. How much, it seems to be like the 50-50 split that once we talked about so heavily is not really here in this board. So all I wanted to do is get to a split that gets us going, because this when it comes back, when it comes back, it's going to be the same argument, right? So why don't we just agree to a split and take a vote on it? And I'm sure that this new split is going to get enough votes to get through. I just hope that it's everybody, okay? So your 60-40 is a good unless you want to make it a different one.
I'll second that motion, but I just want to say, I do know that we want to go up and move it.
All right.
But, and I just, like you said.
In other words,
how
he's doing it
many
under
can-
protest.
so.
He's
like
going
a second
60-40.
under protest.
He's making a second under protest. He wants more info. I understand that, but we got to move on this one, guys. If it comes back, it's going to be another 1-hour discussion about the same issues. All right, so there's been a motion and a second. The motion is to change the split to a 60-40. We'll talk about how long that could take. It could take 2 years, it could take 4 years or whatever. So there's been a motion and a second. I don't need, unless somebody wants a what do you call it, a roll call. I don't need a roll call. I think it's going to be easy to see. Any discussion on this motion? It's a 60-40 split, no time given. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Yeah, there you go, 4-1. Okay, we have a split to work towards. Now, I need a motion to determine how long we're gonna get there. So we're talking about how many percentage points? 4 percentage points? Let's take it over 4 years and let's move on.
No.
Okay, well.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we do it over the next 2 years.
2% every 2 years.
2% a year like we've been doing, except this year.
See, all it does, when you do it that way, all it does is it gets us to the same discussion 2 years from now.
At least we're moving.
Well, we're moving anyway, because I think we have agreed that the split, it's gonna be a 4% difference. So we're moving anyway. I just wanna know how fast you wanna move. And a two-year 2% increase, it's what you made a motion on, I think.
That was my motion.
Is there a second to that motion? If not, then I'll entertain another motion because it lacks a second.
I'll move 1.5%.
But it doesn't work with 4.
Well, but we can look at it again and maybe we need to move more.
So it's 1.5 first year, 1.5 the second year, and 1% the last year.
Yeah.
All right, so it's a 3-year
3
process
years.
to move 4%, to move that needle 4%. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to go ahead and start moving the split between 64% to 60% during the next 3 years, with a 1.5% increase per year and a 1% on the last year, giving us a chance to revisit the issue in 3 years. Giving the new board an opportunity to review that 3 years from now. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you, guys. Motion carried. Oh, there's no opposition. Is there a no in the vote here in the House?
There was
No.
one abstention.
Oh, one abstention. I didn't even hear. Okay, the motion was,
Chairman, you can't abstain unless you have cause.
he's unhappy. That's cause
Yeah,
enough for me.
Then the chair may treat that as a no.
I'll vote no.
All right, for a 0.5 percentage point, you voted no. Okay, look, guys, here's what we've done. We have started a discussion on moving the needle towards a 50%. We ended up with only moving the needle 4% towards 60%. So instead of 50-50, it's 60-40 in 3 years.
Can I have an
All right.
estimation how far that can was kicked?
3 years.
Oh, okay.
3 years.
thank you.
3 years. It actually,
Nice kick.
no, it was actually kicked to the next board because the next board will end up making a decision whether they continue with the policy going forth and reducing it or, reducing the shift even more. So you have an opportunity to be here 3 years from now and make that decision. Any more discussion? All those in favor. Thank you very much. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. As a member of the benefit team, I appreciate all the direction you guys are giving us. Well, okay, but let's move on because that took a long time. Let's go to the event calendar and current events. Board members and the county administration will report on and may discuss events attended or to be attended on behalf of the county, and it may present a brief summary of current events and may update the schedule for future Board of Supervisors meeting as appropriate. No legal action will be taken. Okay, Supervisor Pancrazy, you begin.
Okay. Well, Mr. Chair, as many of you know, I've been a little under the weather for a while, so I haven't attended any events, but I am headed in the right direction, and I will be at the Vigilance tonight for the National Day of Remembrance for homicide victims. So.
Okay, Supervisor McLeod.
I'm mad, so I'm not going to tell you.
All right, so
No.
Supervisor Simmons.
No, don't
Supervisor Simmons, you're next.
He's not abstaining.
He's not abstaining on this one.
I did attend the GYDC board meeting. Also attended a very interesting webinar by the County Supervisors Association regarding internet sales tax. So there's a lot to be on the plate going forward regarding that Supreme Court decision. Also attended the General Aviation Social at Yuma International Airport. It was a good day to be an elected official because Vice Mayor Knight and I both won door prizes.
All right.
That's
I
all
want
have to
to
report.
review that.
What'd you win?
A t-shirt, which my wife is going to couch on.
Yeah, well, that's how they let him back in the house. All right, Supervisor Simmons. Oh, you've been busy.
Well, the reason I wasn't here last meeting was a meeting with Fish and Wildlife and the owner of Castle Dome Museum. We were able to hammer out an agreement to get the roadway opened for this year while they construct the bypass. So we've got a few things just to finish up, but hopefully by the end of the week, the road will be open and be open through the end of April, at which point, hopefully the bypass is in. So it's been a long road, but I think we're finally there.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And then had a meeting with Colonel Poppenberger, reference to the Highway 95 issue. Went out to Patriots Day at YPG and did their 5K. And no, I did not run it. I did not walk it. I rode it. So
we can tell. We can tell.
I don't run very much anymore. Attended the Welt Mohawk Drainage District Board meeting. Held a community meeting in the foothills, which was surprisingly pretty well attended.
Oh, good.
Had a meeting with the Developmental Services, the Health Department, and ADEQ, getting an update on the Far West Water changes that they were required to make
Oh, good.
in that consent order. And it's getting there. I haven't heard a lot of complaints in a while, and I'm hoping it stays that way, but we'll see. And that's about it.
The winter visitors are coming back.
Supervisor Porches, yeah, we can tell. Supervisor Porches.
Yes, I attended the Mexican consulate event on Saturday. It was well attended. It was a pretty nice event. And I also yesterday attended the new mayor's ceremony.
All right.
He has a lot of plans, so hopefully he can go.
All right. Good. I attended the, first of all, I'd like to begin by thanking Supervisor Porchas because he was on time to that September 16 event and was able to read the proclamations that we passed here that I was supposed to read, but I didn't get there on time. So I'd like to thank you for stepping in and reading them on my behalf. You know, but I would like to say that he only stayed there for a little while I stayed there till the end of the event. So, you know, it's a little bit off the.
Stand them up.
Yeah, in other words, I showed up and left. So, you know, I also attended the swearing-in ceremony for the new mayor in San Luis, Mexico. He does have big plans. Hopefully, those plans include continuing the relationship, the close relationship that we've had with the San Luis Rio Colorado mayor over the last 20, 30 years. His focus may be a little bit, not as much in economic development as we're used to, and it's more, you know, a social program type individual. Obviously, he follows along the line of the new Mexican president-elect in Mexico, who will be visiting the city of San Luis Rio Colorado Friday, as he coming in on a victory tour. I actually attended the Housing Authority self-sufficiency graduation, which was, you know, part of that. Well, it was part of the Yuma 77 presentation. It is nice to see. You know, I think that they had sent a representative from Phoenix to attend the event, and the comments that representative made about the people that she had made aware that participated in the program was not only glowing, but it was respect. I mean, there's a lot of accomplishment in that group over there that they're going through. I think that it really goes to show that, contrary to some beliefs out there that people who live in those apartments expect to live there forever, that is not necessarily, it's not the case. I think when people are given an opportunity to work their way into a house, they would take it. And, you know, the fact that some of them took the money for education and other people took the money for housing and, you know, whatever the need was, shows to me again that, you know, given proper opportunities and direction, people will make those choices. So it was nice to attend that. Now, I thought Roger Patterson was going to remain here because he told me he's retiring. When is he retiring?
November?
November 9th.
November 9th? So we'll have time to do it, huh? Right, okay. So we have October. Okay, that's it for me. Susan?
Chairman and members of the board, I attended the county managers administrators meeting last Friday, and this week the CSA board meeting will talk about the CSA priorities for the legislative session as well as the different counties' proposals. Yuma County did not have any proposals this year, but there were about 10 proposals that I'll be bringing to you on October 1st, so you have a preview about what those proposals are and why the counties are recommending that the board support those, so that you'll be prepared for the actual voting that happens during the CSA Legislative Summit, which we're hosting here October 3rd through the 5th. So preparations are going well. Desiree, Doughton, and a number of other staff with the county administrator's office are doing a great job putting that together. We've gotten some really good sponsors, which I will recognize at our next meeting more formally. And then the ICMA International City County Management Association Conference is this Friday through next Wednesday, so I'll be leaving town Friday. It actually starts Saturday, so I'll be leaving town Friday in order to go to that. It's in Baltimore, Maryland. And so Paul Melcher is on vacation, so I will be picking a different acting county administrator during the time that he's not here and I'm gone. So I have to talk to that person first before I name who they are. So just to make sure they're going to be here for that. So I'll let you know what that is like. And that's my annual professional development conference, which I always look forward to participating in.
I do want to thank everybody that's putting that event together, because I know how busy you are. And I want to thank some of the supervisors that are taking the time to go on some of those tours to accompany some of those people coming in. Not the golfing one, but the other ones. And I do want to thank Desiree for being so persistent in, getting some of us to, acknowledge that we're having visitors that day, and we all need to pitch in a little bit. So I want to, again, emphasize that I think you guys are going to do an excellent job, because you're doing one already. So looking forward to it. All right, having no more business to talk about and having legal clear this thing, because there's no abstention, I will declare this meeting over.